Hello everybody, thank you for watching The Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. So, in the middle of this COVID, there's some positive news. Italy has obviously spiked pretty heavy, and here's what happened. China sends medical staff, ventilators, test kits, and masks to help Italy fight COVID-19. This is as of March 14th last week. On March 13th, a chartered plane filled with 30 tons of medical supplies arrived in Rome from Beijing. The plane also carried a team of 9 medical staff to assist with Italy's containment efforts against COVID-19. This is from Global Times. China Eastern Airlines A350 departed for Rome from Shanghai, bringing 9 Chinese medical experts and 31 tons of medical supplies, including plasma of recovered coronavirus patients, to help fight Italy against COVID-19 pandemic. Look at all this. Isn't that impressive? So these are, let me just make it clear, these are a bunch of medical experts that just came out of a month ago, the craziness of what happened in China. So they were, that epidemic spread. You could say, oh, China should have done this, this, or this. Yeah, whatever. I'm just like, no one was prepared for this. The whole world wasn't prepared for this. America wasn't. So, you know, listen to local politicians here blame this on China. It's a China virus. Well, Trump said it was the China virus. You got rid of the pandemic task force 2 years ago. Way to go. So this is China helping Italy, right? This is what we need to do as a planet right now. And this pandemic is bad. There could be a worse one down the road for sure. That's way more contagious. That's way more lethal. There also is the current pandemic of the climate collapse. So we need to start looking at this and how connected we are and working together. And this is really inspirational. In this moment of great stress, of great difficulty, we are relieved to have this arrival of supplies. It is true that it will help only temporarily, but it is still important. Head of the Italian Red Cross, Francisco Rocca, reported to Reuters. Right? So what does one of our dumb politicians in America say? China's to blame because the culture where people eat bats and snakes and dogs and things like that. John Corn told reporters, he's a Republican from Texas, these viruses are transmitted from animal to people, and that's why China has been the source of a lot of these viruses like SARS, MERS, swine flu, and now the coronavirus. Okay, first of all, you have a rattlesnake roundup there in Texas, my friend. And what this is racist. Oh, they eat dogs or whatever. So this is the thing, this is a joke I used to do in my act as a vegetarian. This like, eating this animal is awful, but eating this one's okay. Like, oh, cute little puppy dog, evil, stupid chicken, snap. Like, that's not, you want to make a claim that we should all be vegetarians so this doesn't happen? I'm all for it. But this is a racist thing to say about China. And I'm not excusing any authoritarian stuff their government has done, but we have a very right-wing authoritarian government here in America that say stupid racist shit like this. Is this helping the problem? This dumb, ignorant hillbilly is allowed to be a politician in Congress or Senate, whatever he is. He's in one of those 2 stupid places. This idiot hillbilly. Do you remember a thing that started in the UK called mad cow disease? Oh, that's right. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, bovine spongiform, blah, 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 blah. Mad cow disease. Remember when that popped off? Started in the late 80s, spiked in the 90s. They're still not sure how it started. This is from the CDC's website. There is strong evidence and general agreement that the outbreak was then amplified and spread throughout the United Kingdom cattle industry. Oh, when that happened, did we like, oh, those dirty Brits and their filthy meat eating? No, because we're a meat eating culture. If we were a completely vegetarian culture, then we could be critical of a meat-eating culture like China, but we're not. We have a big beef cattle industry, and this is like, why didn't we? Oh, because they're European. So a white senator, a white male senator, they're a sister culture, the UK. The Chinese look different, they're weird, they have these weird customs, they eat bats and dogs. And also, the UK's economy, they're not crushing us economically. So we can't ship all of our jobs over to China because it's cheaper for our businesses and then call them these big evil. Look what China's doing in Africa. They have spent billions of dollars rebuilding Africa. And you could say, oh, it's a tactic to try to get influence. Of course they're trying to get influence in Africa. We could do that rather than bombing the shit out of everybody. If we wanted to get influence, we could have gone to the Middle East and build an infrastructure in the Middle East. America came here. We built roads. We built hospitals for you. We should be building hospitals so that another epidemic doesn't destroy the whole planet. If we gave Africa, the Middle East, third world countries, we gave them up-to-date medical facilities, then if there was a patient zero in one of those places, they could clamp it down sooner. Look what the Chinese government did. Can we trust their data coming out of China? I don't know. They could be doctoring the numbers. Who knows? But I know one thing. They built a bunch of hospitals overnight practically, and the numbers are coming down. And they're helping people out. And we didn't go after and look at weird British people weirdly. I've heard Chinese Americans are being looked at weird in our... How stupid is that? Did we look at the Brits this way? Anybody with a Manchester United shirt, you mad cower. No, because they look like white. Well, if you're a white Anglo-American, well, the Brits look like you, so you're not offended. The Chinese look different. See that racist bullshit? If anything, we should be critical of globalization. We should be critical of taxing our environment so much. We should be critical of factory farming, which we do here in America. This could spread. Anything could spread this way. We should be leery of for-profit health care. That's what we should be leery of. What COVID-19 is exposing is how lethal capitalism is. How lethal. I want to get it. I asked my local doctor, the lab that uses with my doctor that I'm assigned to through my shitty Obamacare, $51 if I wanted to get a test for COVID-19. $51. I don't have any symptoms. But if I just wanted peace of mind, do I have it, do I not? I got to spend $51. Well, I got to buy groceries. I just lost 30% of my revenue, roughly 25, 30%. Some months it's more, because all my road dates got postponed. And I'm one of the lucky ones because I have an online money coming in. What if people who just lost all their work? They've just got to stay home. There's no work. What are they supposed to do? What are bartenders? What are waiters supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? You're a full-time bartender? Your job, you're done. You've got no money. It's gone. There's 2 dates we're going to have to cancel because one of the venues just is closing its doors, we just were informed. And then remember evil Cuba? Remember what Joe Biden, oh, Bernie's supporting Cuba, no, blah, blah, blah. All this racist or xenophobic crap comes from the stupid Democrats as well, the stupid Democratic Party. Remember what he said a couple of weeks ago at the debate, what Joe Biden said? Bernie just said, hey, they got a good healthcare system, like Obama said. They've done authoritarian things. So is America. No American can be critical of any authoritarian government. None. We waterboard people in this country. We bomb people for their resources. This country does that. We let 500,000 people live in tents every night. We don't give a shit about them. They're talking about in California just building housing automatically to get the homeless off the street for COVID-19. Oh, wow. So it took a pandemic to do a thing that we've had the money to do for decades? Weird. Weird. How many Middle Eastern countries has China bombed? Can you give me that number? How many drones? How many civilians have been killed by Chinese drone strikes? Can someone give me a hard number on that? Because I'll bet you $1,000 it pales in comparison to what America's done. And Cuba, oh, evil Cuba. Was Castro? Yeah, he wasn't a great guy. Sure. What have we done? Look how many people, look how many governments we've overthrown. We demonize, oh, evil socialist. Bernie wants to turn this into Cuba. Here's what the Cuban doctors are doing. Going to Italy.
Over the last 50 years, Cuban doctors have saved millions of lives in Latin America, Asia, and Africa. Now, for the first time, a Cuban medical brigade is on the way to Europe. There are 36 doctors behind me and 15 nurses. I've spoken to some of them over the last couple of hours, and I can tell you they're very proud. They insist they're going to Italy of their own free will, but many of them are very nervous.
Of course I'm scared, but when we went to fight Ebola in West Africa in 2014, we were scared too. But
when we went to fight Ebola in Africa in 2014, we were scared too. So this is just what this guy does. He's just a front line, throw me in the middle of it. It's dangerous, I'm scared, but it's work that needs to be done for the betterment of the human race. Ooh, that sounds like filthy socialism. Looking out for one another? You should just be a capitalist and stick it to your neighbor so you can turn a nickel. That's the American way. Fuck your neighbor. I made more than you. Ha ha. I got health care, you don't. Ha ha. Yay, USA, USA.
fulfilled our mission there, and we all came back.
What we're going to do is cure and bring relief not only to the Italian people, but the world's population. This is a global battle, and we have to fight it together.
Oh, shouldn't he be blaming some other country? No, we have to fight this together. That's what a global pandemic is. Getting mad because what if it would have started in this country? What if it would have started in Texas? Do we all just look weird at Texas? Oh, filthy Texans started that disease. Filthy Texans. Would that make sense? Is that logical? A pandemic can start anywhere.
Why are you going on this mission if you know that Cuban doctors have died on past missions?
Because we are the Cuban people. This is Cuba, and we're always going to keep fighting.
Cuba has so far registered 25 cases of coronavirus, substantially less than most Latin American nations. The country prides itself on its preventative healthcare system and boasts one of the highest doctor-to-patient ratios in the world. But the country's fragile economy is highly dependent on tourism, and authorities only announced they would restrict entry into the island on Friday.
We're not closing the border, meaning what we're doing is regulating entry into the country of people, except those that are residents of our national territory, who are not only our countrymen, there are other foreigners that reside in Cuba permanently, or some who, because of their work, are here for several years.
Cuba is lending Italy these medics at no cost. But for over a decade, the leasing of doctors and nurses has been the island's top hard currency generator. With Cuba's tourism sector hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic, the Communist Party will be hoping that unprecedented global demand for doctors will help pay for the power, food and running water Cubans will need to get through this crisis. A silver lining, perhaps, at a dark moment.
Boy, there's more of that evil socialism Bernie keeps touting. That's what Bernie was saying. Look at their healthcare system. They have the lowest rate of COVID right now because they have the highest doctor-to-patient ratio. They have more doctors per people than any country in the world. We got to wake up to this. Explain to your neighbors, to your friends, your family, when they're like, socialism, explain what democratic socialism is. Democratic socialism is not Stalin-era totalitarian Soviet Union communism. Democratic socialism is tax money pays for something that we all get to use. The fire department? Imagine if the fire department was run like private health insurance. Oh, help, my house is on fire. They show up. Maybe they don't put out the fire because you don't have the right insurance, or they put it out and give you a bill. Can you imagine? The fire started at 2 in the morning. We got to pay these guys time and a half. I mean, the water, the truck, the gear. We put your fire out. Here's a $17,000 bill. You should have had firefighters insurance. That's democratic socialism. We need more social programs for this, because we're all connected. You know what makes it the like, give it, it's mine, me, the Ayn Rand fucking idiots? The smaller government? No, you know why you want bigger government? During this pandemic, if we didn't have 500,000 people living on the streets, that's actually a health risk. People living on the street, just interacting with each other, interacting with anyone else. They don't have health care, they don't have a place to live, where can they self-quarantine? See, if we didn't have homelessness, if we had really good health and everyone had great health insurance, oh, the pandemic's here, everybody go, boom, if you feel like you got symptoms, free tests everywhere, testing everywhere. Look what South Korea did. Look what Japan did. They're democratic societies. They're not totalitarian societies, and they have free health care. Look what they did. Look what they did. Italy has free health care. It's really good health care. So it's developed a culture of the minute you're sick, you go to the doctor. So that was one of the reasons the beds got overrun. Also, they have an older population. They're more community. Everybody hangs out, hugs and kisses, and hangs out with each other. It's Europe, so everything's tighter. So it spread quicker. It wasn't because their system was broken. It got overrun too quickly. A lot of people smoke there. Anyone with respiratory problems, it exacerbates it. It's not that they have some bumbling free healthcare system that made it worse. Part of it was just their culture. The geographic of Italy's not a big country. It's small in land mass. The cities are tight. You ever been to Rome? You ever been to Milan? They're tight European cities. Everything's tight in Europe. We should be what Cuba is. We should be sending our dollar. We got COVID-19 lockdown because we got this great Medicare for all in America. The thing John Kennedy gave a speech for in 1962. In 1962, he said we are decades behind Europe in our healthcare system. Decades. And this is what we should be doing. What JFK suggested in 1962.
Now, why are we here? What is the issue which divides and arouses so much concern? I will take a case which may be typical. A family which may be found in any part of the United States. The husband has worked hard for his life and he is retired. He might have been a clerk or a salesman or on the road or worked in a factory, stores or whatever. He's always wanted to pay his own way. He does not ask anyone to care for him. He wants to care for himself. He has raised his own family. He has educated them. His children are now on their own. He and his wife are drawing Social Security. It may run $75, $100, $125 in the higher brackets. Let's say it's $100. And he has a pension from where he worked, the results of years of effort. Now, therefore, his basic needs are taken care of. He owns his house. He has $2,500 or $3,000 in the bank. And then his wife gets sick. And we're all going to be in a hospital, 9 out of 10 of us, before we finally pass away, and particularly when we're over 65. Now she is sick, not just for a week, but for a long time. First goes the $2,500. That's gone. Next, he mortgages his house, even though he may have some difficulty making the payments out of his Social Security. Then he goes to his children, who themselves are heavily burdened because they're paying for their house, and they're paying for their sicknesses, and they want to educate their children. Then their savings begin to go. This is not a rare case. I talked to a member of the Congress from my own state a week ago who told me he was going to send his daughter away to school, but because his father had been sick for 2 years, he could not do it. And Congressman, I'll pay $22,500 a year. And that's more than most people get. So therefore now, what is he going to do? His savings are gone, his children's savings, they're contributing, though they have responsibilities of their own, and he finally goes in and signs a petition saying he's broke and needs assistance. Now what do we say? We say that during his working years, he will contribute to Social Security as he has in the case of his retirement, $12 or $13 a month. When he becomes ill, or she becomes ill over a long period of time, he first pays $90 so that people will not abuse him. But then let's say he has a bill of $1,500. This bill is not that we're talking about Mr. Anderson's bill and Mr. King solve everything, but let's say it's $1,500, of which $1,000 are hospital bills. This bill will pay that $1,000 in hospital bill. And then I believe that he and the effort he makes in his family can meet his other responsibilities. Now that does not seem such an extraordinary piece of legislation 25 years after Franklin Roosevelt passed the Social Security Act. This is not a campaign against doctors because doctors have joined with us. This is a campaign to help people meet their responsibilities. We do not cover doctors' bills here. We do not affect the freedom of choice. You can go to any doctor you want. The doctor and you work out your arrangements with him. We talk about his hospital bills. All these arguments were made against Social Security at the time of Franklin Roosevelt. They're made today. And then other people say, why doesn't the government mind its own business? What is the government's business is the question. This bill serves the public interest. It involves the government because it involves the public welfare. The Constitution of the United States did not make the President or the Congress powerless. It gave them definite responsibilities to advance the general welfare, and that is what we're attempting to do. And then I read that this bill will sap the individual self-reliance of Americans. I can't imagine anything worse or anything better to sap someone's self-reliance than to be sick, alone, broke, or to have saved for a lifetime and put it out in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. This argument that the government should stay out, that it saps our pioneer stock. I used to hear that argument when we were talking about raising the minimum wage to $1.25. The fact of the matter is, what saps anyone's self-reliance is working 60 hours at straight time, or working at 85 or 95 or $1 an hour. In England, the entire cost of medicine for people of all ages, all of it, doctors, the choice of doctors, hospitals, from the time you're born to the time you die, are included in a government program. We are now talking about doing most of the countries of Europe did years ago. The British did it 30 years ago. We are behind every country pretty nearly in Europe in this matter of medical care for our citizens. We are concerned with the progress of this country. And those who say that what we are now talking about spoils our great pioneer heritage should remember that the West was settled with two great actions by the national government. One, in President Lincoln's administration, when he gave a homestead to everyone who went west, and in 1862 he set aside government property to build our land-grant colleges. This cooperation between an alert and progressive citizenry and a progressive government is what has made this country great, and we shall continue as long as we have the opportunity to do so. This is the only way we can secure action to keep this country moving ahead, to have places to educate our children, to have decent housing, to do something about the millions of young children who leave our schools before they graduate. Every day I am reminded of how many things were left undone. 30 years ago they provided that no drugs be put on the market which were unsafe for hogs and for cattle. We want to take the radical step of doing the same for human beings. Anyone who says that Woodrow Wilson, as great a president as he was, and Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman, that they did it all, and we have nothing left to do, now are wrong. We ask you, the citizens of this country, the responsible and thoughtful doctors, the hospital administrators, all those who face this challenge of educating our children, finding work for our older people, finding security for those who have retired, all who are committed to this great effort of moving this country forward, come and give us your help.
JFK said it in 1962. And the one thing he didn't mention in there was dealing with a global pandemic. It wasn't even an issue back then. They weren't even thinking about it. They had dealt with Spanish flu in 1918. But had that been in place, that was 1962, 58 years ago. Thank you for watching the show. America should be that, not Joe Biden's middle ground, not Trump's racist, give all the money to corporations nonsense. We need to be the light that shines throughout the world, not that bombs it, not that steals its resources, not that says racist things because a virus started in China. Oh, no, that's the best of America. That's what that is. JFK, not perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination, but all of the things he talked about, he gave it a historical context. All the Ayn Rand, no less government, less government. Now, in the middle of this crisis, we need better government. We need better democratic socialism. Not authoritarian rule, not spending all this money on surveillance, but it's spending money on its people. Because as he said, a progressive, informed citizenry makes for a better country. Shave your knuckles for justice. Everybody, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification button and the subscribe button, even if you've done it before, because they're unsubscribing, many of you, every day. Watch the ads all the way through. If you click skip ad, I don't get paid. Also, support us at patreon.com/GrahamElwood or rockfin.com/GrahamElwood. Rockfin.com is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. All my videos are on Rockfin ad-free. Thanks for watching.